Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dietrich and this is a 2005 Lexus LS 430. 2005 was the second to last year of production for the third generation LS, and I still think this is the absolute pinnacle of LS-ness. I think this is the nicest LS that Lexus/Toyota ever made, and with this review I'm going to show you why. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about what is or what was a third generation LS. We'll have a look at the styling. We will look at the powertrain, the engine and transmission. We'll measure out the trunk space. We'll check out the passenger room. We'll look at what features came on this particular car. I do happen to have the window sticker for it. And we will look at what doesn't work on this 20-year-old Lexus, which is supposed to be the pinnacle of reliability. So with all that being said, please check the description below for timestamps to skip to what you really want to see, and let's get started. So what was a third generation Lexus LS 20 years ago when this car was sold brand new? Well, of course, the original LS 400 in 1989 was Toyota's foray into really trying to compete with BMW and Mercedes in the US market. They were so serious about it, they started an all-new brand with an all-new dealer network and actually sold the early LS 400s at a loss to try to gain market share. They redesigned it in the mid-90s and stayed with a very conservative look. The car was still excellent for its time, but looked very conservative and really didn't quite stack up to the S-classes at the time. However, by the time they redesigned this third gen in 2001, they really swung for the fences and probably knocked it out of the park. It's pretty easy to argue that by the time this car was sold in 2005, it was the best choice of large luxury sedans, at least where I am in the United States. It was up against the milquetoast W220 S-Class Mercedes and the very controversial E65 BMW 7 Series with its weird Chris Bangle styling and impenetrable first-generation iDrive system, and those were both much more expensive than this LS 430 was. Interestingly enough, the more compelling choices were probably also the more contrarian ones. The Infiniti Q45 with its more powerful 4.5-liter V8 and Gatling gun headlights, or the newly designed at the time Audi A8 and Jaguar XJ with their all-aluminum bodies. They were potentially nicer cars than this, at least in the near term, but again, especially the Europeans, more expensive, not as reliable, not as good of resale value, and maybe even less initial appeal than this Lexus LS 430 had, and that's probably why, at the time, at least in the United States, it was the best-selling large luxury car. And another reason why it was the best-selling large luxury car at that time was the styling. So as I said before, the first and second generation Lexus LS models were very conservative, and Lexus/Toyota actually kind of regretted that choice with the second gen. They felt they should have taken a few more chances with it. So when it came time to design the third generation, chances they took, and it paid off. You got a much more expressive front end instead of those rectangular headlights on the first two generation. We have these nicer, more modern looking headlights. And since this is a post-refresh model, it was refreshed in 2004, those are bi-xenon headlights. So you have xenons for the low beams and halogens for the high beams. This particular car is also equipped with the 18-inch alloy wheels. That became a new option in 2004 as well, and it was a standalone option in 2005. You didn't have to get the sport package, so this car just has them as a standalone option. And of course, we have LED taillights in the rear. I feel like those LED taillights on the post-refresh third-gen LSs are really iconic. I love the way that those look, and overall, I've always felt like this is a great-looking car inside and out. It is still a traditional three-box sedan profile, but they put enough individual styling flourishes on there to really make it unique, set it apart from the previous generations, and I don't think any of the LSs that came afterwards looked any better, quite frankly. They probably all looked a little bit worse. Now we're going to take a look under the hood and talk about the engine and transmission, and unfortunately on this particular LS 430, the hood struts have failed, so I'm going to close that, but I'm just going to show you B-roll anyway. What we have under the hood is the legendary 3UZFE 4.3-liter V8. This engine makes 290 horsepower and 320 torque. It's super smooth, super refined, super quiet, really a paragon of what an engine on a luxury sedan should be. It still runs great in this car. I love the engine. It's fantastic. Normally, I like a little bit more noise out of my V8s, but the quietness kind of suits the character of this Lexus. And when you do hear it, it just it's so refined, it's great. It's a joy to drive. Not as good is the transmission. So in 2004, when Lexus updated the LS 430, they switched from a 5-speed automatic to a 6-speed automatic transmission. And I'm sure when it was brand new, it worked just fine. But one of the changes they made was to the maintenance schedule. When they moved to the 6-speed transmission, they said that it was a lifetime transmission fluid. It never needed to be changed. This is just never the case. It's not possible. And so I'm sure the fluid in this car has probably never been changed just because the manufacturer never recommended to do it. So it still shifts pretty smooth when you're accelerating on the upshifts, but when you're slowing down, especially to a stop, you get some real hard clunks as it's downshifting into gear, so the solenoids in there are worn. If you got in there now, serviced it, maybe used a little Lucas transmission fix, I don't know, I like that stuff, you could probably smooth it out. It's not totally gone, but it's not as good as it should be. But overall, I'm sure when it was brand new, the powertrain was as good as it got, really, for a luxury car. And the engine's still excellent. The transmission just needs a proper service. All right, now we're going to measure out the cargo space. But before we do, there's a couple of things worth looking at back here. This still has the original first aid kit and the original tool kit that came with the car. And I don't think anyone has ever used either one of them. So here's everything that came in a Lexus first aid kit back in 2005. Bandages, cleaning towelette, all kind of stuff. There's some scissors, there's some tweezers, is that a magnifying glass? Okay. And then look at this. We got a couple of wrenches, we got some pliers. This I may have to keep. This appears to be a flashlight. Does it say Lexus on it? Oh, look, it's got a red thing. And it even has some batteries. I'll bet those batteries are shot. It's got a screwdriver. And the way it works for the toolkit is slide it right in there, and there's the toolkit. And then for the first aid kit, you just kind of Velcro it to the wall of the trunk like that. So that's pretty cool. That stuff is still in there. Now on to the measurements, and we'll start with the width at the widest part of the trunk in what I call the golf club hole right at the back. And it is a whopping 5 feet and 4 inches. And you do know Lexus drivers be golfing, so I'm glad that they were thorough with that. Now you can see as we move into kind of the inside of the trunk, it gets much narrower, and it's a pretty oddly shaped trunk. You've got some kind of a hump right there. We've got a couple of different levels of narrowness, but at its narrowest point, it's only 2 feet and 10 inches wide. So that's very interesting. It's super duper wide at the widest point and relatively narrow at the narrowest point, but that's how they did it. The height of the interior of the trunk is 1 foot and 7 inches. And the roof or the top of the trunk is beautifully finished, carpeted. You got a light right there. So that's really nice. The length of the trunk from the rear of the trunk measured to the back seat is 3 feet and 8 inches. I'm not going to open that center thing because it doesn't look like it's ever been opened, and I don't think anybody really cares, but that's like a ski pass-through if you're going to take your LS 430 skiing. And if we take all the cargo nets off so we can get under the trunk, this thing has a full-size spare tire. Look at that. 245 ZR18 extra load, full-size spare. Nice feature. You gotta love that. And one more thing, soft closing trunk was standard, and it still works. What a machine. Of course, the Lexus LS 430 is known to be a very roomy and comfortable car, so let's see if I can sit my 6' 5" frame behind myself in this vehicle. Okay, so no surprise here. Definitely I can fit behind myself. I get in the front seat. I have enough knee room, I have enough leg room, I have enough headroom. And if I get into the back seat, the way I have the front seat adjusted, I probably have even more room in the back seat than I did in the front seat. But even if I didn't, I could still adjust it from right here. so I could shove myself into the dash or say, hey man, bring it back. Bring it back. You got room. No problem. Here, why don't you lean back a little bit more? Okay, that's enough. Now it's touching my knee. So you got those controls there. We got air vents. Ooh, we got a cigarette lighter right there, which probably also means we have some ashtrays, some trash in there. This doesn't smell like a smoker's car, thankfully, but we do have a cigarette lighter. Oh, does it work? Ooh, it still works. Smoke them if you got them. I quit years ago. And in here, we've got cup holders. We've got controls for the heated rear seats. Ooh, they may still work. This car has heated and cooled seats in the front, but when you turn the knob to control it, like the light doesn't even come on, so they don't work in the front, but maybe they work in the rear. So anyway, very nice. Very good room in the back seat of the LS 430. Now we're going to talk about the features on this 2005 LS 430, and this particular vehicle I have the window sticker for, which is pretty cool. It was $63,284 20 years ago. You can barely buy a Ford F-150 for that now, but let's move on. It did have some options, as I mentioned earlier, the 18-inch all-season tires with alloy wheels. That was $220. The modern luxury package was almost $5,000. That's pretty expensive back in 2005, but it did give you the Mark Levinson premium sound system, which still sounds excellent, and the navigation system with a backup camera. You have the voice commands and Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth does still work. Front climate control seats with heating and cooling knobs, so you have ventilated and heated front seats. You have heated rear seats and the intuitive parking assist. I'm not 100% sure what that is. I think it's just the parking sensors because it has those too, but if you know more than I do about this car, please put it in the comments. The only other option worth mentioning on this car is the smart key, and let's talk about that for a minute. So this became a $1,000 option when Lexus did their mid-cycle refresh on the 2004 LS, and this being a 2005, it was still an option. I can only imagine 90% of them were ordered with it, but it works a little bit different than the smart key systems that you might get in a Mercedes or an Acura at the time. Those just had push-button starts. This one has an actual keyhole that you can put the key in and turn it to start it. But you don't need to. As long as the key is in the car, you can just turn the little fob thing that you plug the key into and it will start the car. So that's kind of an interesting way to do it. Lexus would pretty quickly move on to push start buttons like everybody else in the industry used, but that's not how it works on this 2005 model, and the key is a little bit interesting looking. The key blade is like sheathed in there and you hit a button and it comes out and push it back in, and so the key's a little bit unique on this LS, but it does have keyless access. Some of the standard features that came on this car, we do have dual zone automatic climate control, and it does still work. The air conditioner blows nice and cold. We have a power rear sunshade. That was standard, and that still works, as does the power moonroof. All those items still function as they should. The power folding mirrors are still present and correct. And one thing that I thought was broken, but it started working today for some reason, was the memory seating. When I first started driving this car a couple of days ago, I tried to program the seat for my driving position because I'm such a tall guy. On cars with memory seating, if whoever had it before was shorter than me, which they probably were, then it'll kind of push me into the steering wheel. So I always program the memory seat to me, and it wasn't working and it didn't seem to do anything, so it didn't matter. But I just messed with it before I started filming this, and now it's working. I don't know if you can hear that beep. Uh-oh. See, I just put it on position 2. Watch this. It's tilting up. Do you see it pushing me? It works now. Hang on. And now I put it in position 1. Hey! The Lexus fixed itself. Let's go over some more stuff it needs to fix, because here's what's wrong with it. So first and foremost, the driver's side front door lock actuator does not work. You can hit the power door locks all day long. It locks the other 3 doors. It does not lock the driver's side door. Same thing if you use the smart key to try to enter the car or use the key fob. This power door lock actuator, something's wrong with it. It does not work at all. Heated and cooled seats in the front do not work at all. You try to turn them on and just nothing happens. So that could be a fuse, I don't know, but they don't work. The adaptive front headlights. So another standard feature on these was the headlights would turn with the steering wheel at night, and there is a button to disable it down here, and I've tried it both ways driving it at night. The adaptive headlights do not adapt. They do not turn with the steering wheel, so that's broken. The power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, it still tilts. You can move it up and down, but it does not telescope, and you can hear the motor like trying to do it, but it won't. So the power telescoping steering wheel does not work. There is a clunkety clunk clunk somewhere from the front suspension. I hear it on the driver's side. That could be a wheel bearing, it could be a bushing, it could be a tie rod end. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong with the suspension in the front. That's a maintenance thing. And the transmission, like I said during the powertrain thing, it kind of clunks when it's coming down to a stop. So those are the items that don't work anymore, but overall, this is still a very functional car. It's relatively low miles for a 20-year-old vehicle. It's only got 111,399 miles as it sits right now. And honestly, if you put a few $1,000s worth of work into it, service the transmission, it needs new tires, put a door lock actuator in it, do something about the suspension, you could probably get another, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 10 years out of this thing. Who knows? Thank you so much for watching my review of this 2005 LS. This is not a pristine model, obviously, but it is in very good shape, and I think it does prove, at least my own opinion to myself, that this is the nicest LS that Lexus ever made. It was also known as the Toyota Celsior, and someday there may be a vehicle that looks very much like this on my driveway, but probably not this exact one. Anyway, I will post a link to my point of view test drive video in the description. Please click on that and check that out. Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.